What is up, ninjas? Today we're gonna go over real estate investing for beginners and what you need to know as a first-time home buyer, and some of these things might surprise you. Ninjas. Today we have a very special guest. I've been wanting to get into real estate, so you know when I enter a new niche, I find the person who's the best at it, and then I learn from them. So Graham Stephan, welcome to the channel. A lot of you have probably heard about him. He has a very popular YouTube channel where he discusses real estate amongst other things. So today we're going to teach you how to get involved in real estate from a beginner's perspective, right? Because a lot of people want to do real estate for two reasons, right? They want to either buy their own home or they want to buy investment properties, right? And so we're going to cater this video to those two things because I think it makes up kind of the vast majority of people out there who are getting interested in real estate. So give us advice. We want the real actionable tips, right? Like we want the stuff that you've learned over years, building a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio. Somebody who's buying their first home, right? What do they need to know?
Okay, well the first thing and the most important thing is just to work on your credit score. That is the easiest thing to do, and it's also the thing that many people tend to overlook because they don't think it's a big deal.
Right.
It's as simple as going to your bank, getting a secured credit card, and paying it off in full at the time it's due. And that's as easy as it is. And it's doing that consistently for 6 to 18 months.
Before
doing anything. Number one is working on your credit score. By far.
So
before even thinking about where you're gonna buy, where you're gonna get the money, credit score.
Right. So what credit score are people want? Like what do they want? What's like a minimum that people can?
I would say the very minimum is probably about a 740. A 740 is going to get you the best rates on whatever loan you want. And then once you get above a 760 is when you start getting what's called lender credits, where they'll actually credit you back on some of your closing costs. They can give you preferential treatment. There's just a multitude of great things that happen above 760, but 740 is usually the rate you need to, is the score you need to get the best rate.
So in the simplest sense, right, because I know there's a lot of complexities, and there's like different types of loans, right? Like for people out there who don't know, there's like ARMs, there's 5-year, 15-year, 20-year. If you could have any loan, what's the best one for a mortgage?
Yeah, it depends on how long you're gonna be holding the property for. If you came to me and you said, I want to buy this home and I want to live in it for 10 years and then I'm planning on selling it and moving somewhere else, I would say you're best off getting a 7 to 10 year ARM, which is an adjustable rate mortgage. This basically means that they give you a lower interest rate up front that then resets 7 or 10 years later down the line.
Okay.
If you said, I'm going to keep this property forever, it makes zero sense to do that unless you believe interest rates are going to be lower in the future.
Right.
So what you end up doing is you get the 30-year loan, you lock it in, knowing that eventually rates are going to be much higher in the future than they are right now.
Okay. So people who hear the word refinanced, right? What does that mean?
This means that you can basically pull out equity in the property if you have any equity in the property, or you can refinance down to a lower rate.
Okay.
So let's say you have a 5% interest rate and you see 6 years later that rates have dropped to, let's say, 3%. You have the option to refinance that loan. It's basically, you get another bank that will pay off that first loan and give you a second loan at a lower rate.
Okay.
Or you can pull out equity in that property if you have any equity in the property, pull that out as cash, and now you have a larger loan and money in your pocket.
So when people say like, you know, a mortgage, right? Like in my mind, I think 20% down. Is that what people should be doing? When I say 20% down, I mean, if the house costs $100,000, you're paying $20,000 out of pocket, the bank's lending you $80,000.
My unpopular opinion is yes, I would aim for 20% down. I think that's a safe amount that if you could save up 20%, you're in the position where if the market were to go down, or if you were to lose your job, or something happens, you have enough in the property that you're not going to be underwater.
Right.
Or I think it's a lot riskier if people are putting 5% down or 10% down. By all means, I think that if you can find the right property at the right rate at 5% down, and you have the money and you have the reserves and you have the job, by all means.
Okay.
I would say typically it's better for most people to put down 20%, even if that means to save a little bit longer. And typically you can also avoid what's called PMI, which is private mortgage insurance.
Right.
This is when you don't have enough equity in the property. You're typically a higher risk to banks. So in order to compensate banks for that extra risk, you have to pay that PMI, which is just an extra cost. Could be
if you pay less than 20%.
If you pay, yes.
Okay.
Sometimes now it's less than 15.
Right.
But previously it's been less than 20.
So two-pronged question. What's a good rate people should pay, right? Because like when I got my house, I think I paid 4%.
That's good.
And so what's a rate people are looking for, A, and then part B, where should people start when they're looking for a mortgage? Like where should they get it from?
So a good rate is going to change every 6 months. 2 years ago, a good rate was 3.375%. And that's what I got on a 30-year loan on my place in Culver City. 3.375%.
Wow.
The next loan I got was for an investment property, and that was 4.5%. And at the time, that was the very lowest, was 4.5%. But that was for an investment property. So it really depends on the time. I think rates are going up. So I think pretty soon 4.7 is going to be normal.
Right.
And then pretty soon, maybe a year and a half from now, 5% is going to be normal. The best way to get the best rate is just to shop around. It's not to go to one bank and be like, okay, Chase says this. It's to go to 3 or 4 different banks and then price match them against one another. And you can go to Chase and say, Wells Fargo, who typically offers lower rates, gave me this rate. Will you match it or beat it? And then they will. And then you take it back to Wells Fargo and say,
right,
Chase did this. And you're able to negotiate down the best rate. Some banks you learn are better than others. Wells Fargo offers the best rates, but they're the slowest to close. Same with Bank of America. They tease you in with these low rates, but they're packed with fees and they typically take a long time to close. Chase, you'll pay a little bit more, but they close on time and they're just better to deal with. So shop around for your loan.
So last question, then we'll move on to investment properties. I think a lot of people are interested in that too. What are closing costs? Like what are the hidden fees that a new home buyer needs to know about that aren't like kind of publicly known?
Right. See, the thing is, publicly known, like to me, all of these are just like common sense stuff. But for most people watching, I guess you wouldn't think that anytime you get a loan, there are origination fees.
Right.
And sometimes they could be as high as 1% of whatever loan you get. So if you're taking a $300,000 loan, sometimes that can cost you $3,000 or 1%. Right. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's 0.5%. Sometimes there are no loan origination fees depending on the bank. That is something to consider. But more so when you're buying a property, you have escrow fees. That could typically be, I think it's like, $2 per thousand of the purchase price or $1 per thousand.
Right.
It depends on the escrow company. In addition to that, you will have appraisal fees. Anytime you get the home appraised, it could be anywhere from $450 to $800 depending on the home.
Yep.
And they charge you for credit reports. This is the one I get pissed off at. They charge you like $100 to run your credit, that's pure profit for them. Like
and they run your credit, which
exactly, and that's just pure profit for them. So there are little miscellaneous things that add up. I typically say that all of your closing costs should be about 1% of the purchase price.
Okay.
If you're buying $1 million house, on average, between inspections, escrow, closing fees, loan origination fees, should be about 1%. It could be a little bit less. On average, about that, I'd say, is a pretty safe bet.
Okay, so I lied because I have one more question, and then we'll get to investments. So inspections, right? This is something that's incredibly important. What have you learned in your career doing real estate that's important that some people might overlook or things like that?
Inspect everything. Even if you don't think it's going to be an issue, the way I typically look at inspections from both a investor standpoint and from a real estate agent standpoint is that usually you break even with your inspections as a worst case scenario. So let's say you spend $2,000 on inspections. Chances are you're going to find more than $2,000 worth of issues that you use to negotiate the price of the property. So everything you do should at the very least break even. So there's no harm in doing more inspections. For instance, I had no problem spending like $300, $400, $500 doing a sewer line inspection. The chance of something being wrong with that is probably 1 in 100, but if it is, it could be a $20,000 or $30,000 repair.
There you go.
So between that and doing a general inspection, which is just like a dude who just goes through the entire home, very general stuff, get a roof inspection, plumbing, electrical, foundation, all of these things, termite here in California, chances are you'll be able to negotiate with the seller to at least get all your money back, and you have the benefit of knowing everything that's wrong with that property.
So just, are you using a real estate agent like always, or is there a better way to do it?
I mean, I am a real estate agent, so that's what I do.
But for a new buyer, do you recommend they use a real estate agent, or is there a better way?
I would 100% use a real estate agent. I would never do a transaction without a real estate agent.
Right.
Choosing a real estate agent, though, should be a pretty big decision because there's a lot of real estate agents out there that suck.
Yeah.
I mean, just they're terrible to work with. And I mean, I've been in the business now of a real estate agent for 10 years. And I've seen some great agents who are totally worth their money. And other agents that just sit around and they just write the contract and they get paid. And they do a terrible job at it and they add nothing. They make the transaction like more difficult and they actually cost the buyer money in the process. So actually, absolutely work with a real estate agent. if you're sophisticated enough and you know what you're doing, I don't think it's the worst idea to work with the listing agent if that gives you a better leg up on getting the property in a competitive market.
Okay, so I keep lying because now I have another question.
Yeah.
So so as far as real estate agents go, like how do you find a good one, right? Because you said you have bad ones, right? So like,
Yeah.
is there a trick, or like, are you just?
I would say, from my experience, it's word of mouth.
Okay.
Is usually you can find someone who's been happy with an agent that then refers you more business. And I'm a little biased, but that's how I get most of my business at this point. It's word of mouth or referral. That I would say is like 99% of my business at this point is all just existing customers or their referrals. So I'm biased about that. But if you don't, let's say you're starting out, you're brand new, you don't know anything, two places. One, just go to open houses, and you will be able to meet so many agents, and you'll be able to tell, I think, which agents are knowledgeable based off, you know, their experience in that market. Or if you ask them and you say like, hey, I saw this home came on the market down the street, and they look at you and they're like, what home?
Right. Like
You know?
actually like know.
Yeah.
What the heck they're talking about.
Or secondly, just look online, and you should be able to tell, you know, decently if people have good reviews, especially on Zillow or Yelp. And I've been terrible, and I don't have any reviews, but you know.
So you mentioned Zillow.
Yeah.
That's how you're finding houses? Because I know there's like the MLS.
So I am an agent. We have the MLS.
Right.
What I use, even as an agent, I hate to say it, but the Realtor.com app.
Yeah, that's what.
In my opinion, it's better than the MLS that I pay for. It's a better layout. It's easier to navigate. All the information is there.
Yeah.
The only information they're missing is for income property, because they don't have the breakdowns of like all the analysis of that. But besides that, for everyone else, the Realtor.com app is the best and funnest place to look.
Okay, let's get into investments. How does someone who has always heard about how real estate's so amazing, right, but maybe doesn't have like a ton of capital, how do they get started? What are the best things to look for? How do they find like kind of the best properties in your experience?
Yes. I would say the first thing is capital. It's very hard to get started in real estate investing or even buying real estate without capital. So I would say number one would be to make money, preferably, online. But you got to make money somehow. And for me, that was working as a real estate agent, and I was able to save up money from that to invest.
Right.
I'm not seeing people invest with zero money down. I'm not seeing people invest with 5% down. My experience has typically been 15 to about 20% down.
Okay.
And that could differ from market to market. Your 20% might be 20 grand, my 20% might be 200 grand.
Yeah.
So it really differs from market to market.
Okay.
But capital is number one.
Right.
Second to that, honestly, is just going online and learning. And when I mean going online, like look at the Realtor.com app and just see what properties are coming on the market every single day. And it's
Right.
fun. Like this, you should have fun when you do this. This should not seem like a chore, like you have to do it. You should just go on and have a great time looking at what's coming on the market. And then every weekend, Saturday, Sunday, there will be open houses. Just drive around the areas you think you want to invest in and check out open houses in person. You'll be able to tell so much just by driving around the area that you think you want to live in. Because I've seen so many times, I look on Google Street View,
Right.
and it looks amazing, and then you show up and you're like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is
Yeah.
nasty. So you have to see it in person, get a feel for the vibe.
So there's a couple types of investing properties, right? Like there's residential,
Yes.
there's commercial. Are there more types? Like what? Explain the difference and what should people be interested in?
Yeah, when it comes to investing, I mean, there are many ways to invest in real estate.
Right.
One is flipping. If you buy a property that's undervalued, you fix it up and you sell it, obviously for a profit. That's a very active way of investing.
And you need more money to fix it up too.
Yes, exactly. Getting a loan for fixing up a property usually is extremely difficult, and most flippers have just a ton of cash that they use
Right.
to deploy into the renovation just to be able to flip it quick and profit. But that is very active. I would not consider that passive. I would consider that a lot of these developers either do that full time or they're just like really wealthy people who hire it out.
Right.
And they do really high-end projects.
Yeah.
So you could flip property. The next way you could invest in real estate is through rental property, which is what I do, which is where you buy something right the first time, you preferably renovate it, add value to it, you rent it out, and then you just keep it forever. And then the third way I think a lot of people think about real estate investing is what's called wholesaling, which is basically you tie up a property in escrow, you get it under contract, and then you assign that contract to another buyer and you make money on the difference.
Right.
Price between what you got the property in contract for and what you assign that contract to someone else and what they're willing to pay. I don't do that. That's not what I'm into whatsoever, but people do that. I would hardly call that investing though, but again, that's a little more active.
So for people who are trying to get started, like what's the best place to learn other than of course Graham Stephan's YouTube?
Yeah, like and subscribe. Best place to learn. That's a great question. I would say biggerpockets.com is a great place for anything real estate,
Okay.
and you have a great community of people there that all really are into real estate and they all help each other out. So that's a great place to start. Secondly, books. I mean, there are books about just about anything, and YouTube is a great place. And I'm not knocking YouTube whatsoever, but when you get a book, I mean, it's so condensed.
I've thought about it a lot.
Yeah,
more.
the difference really is like with a YouTube video, maybe these people spent like a week preparing a video, or even
Right.
just imagine they spent a whole month preparing a video about investing in real estate. We got to think with a book. Someone has maybe spent years of their life planning this out perfectly,
Plus
and it's all there.
experience.
Plus the experience, and there's just something there with a book that is just it's lacking on YouTube, in my opinion.
Yeah.
There are amazing books. Whatever you want to invest in, I recommend going to that route first, and that's what I did. I read this book called Buy It, Rent It, Profit, and that was the first book that got me into rental real estate. I read that, and just the whole concept got me so hooked to the point where I read that book like twice. And then you could go on YouTube or on Google and then
Right.
seek further information or see people like doing what you want to do.
So people who, first of all, buy or rent, and then second of all, I've always been curious, like if you buy, let's say your mortgage payment is $10,000 a month, what can you reasonably expect to make from renting that out? Right? Like what percentage proportionate, you know what I mean?
It's so area specific.
Yeah.
Here, at least where I am in Los Angeles, you would be lucky to break even.
Okay.
Typically what I'm seeing in LA is about $5,000 per month in rent per million. That's just typical of Los Angeles, which is terrible for cash flow. You take that same thing an hour and a half to Riverside, and you'll be able to actually make money on that deal. And you might be able to see like an 8% return, whereas LA, you're going to see zero cash flow. It's very area specific. But usually what you sacrifice in terms of cash flow, unless you just screw up the deal altogether and you just bought like a terrible property, usually what you sacrifice in cash flow, you get back in appreciation.
Right.
So in a market like this, you might break even. But at the same time, you're paying down the mortgage, and meanwhile, the property values have gone up like 6%, 7% annually.
Right, so you're just building free equity breaking even.
Exactly. With the hope that in the future, rents will catch up and you will have this property that's now worth like $10 million that is paid off 30 years from now, and then it's renting for like $40,000 a month.
Right.
But the initial stage, you're not going to make much money.
Right. Okay. So we don't want to take up too much of your time. So we'll get just like a closing kind of. If people want to be involved in real estate, they watch this. They just learned a bunch from you. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
What's the first step, kind of to be involved? Let's say somebody has 30 grand. They live in Dallas, Texas. Like what? Give us like a 1, 2, 3 of how they find potential investment properties, or how you would personally look in a market like that.
One, like I mentioned, build your credit, get that taken care of. If
Right.
you have any outstanding credit card debt, anything that's bogging you down, get that taken care of and pay it off. Number 2, talk to a lender and find out what you can qualify for. The lender's also going to tell you, you have this car payment, and this car payment means you qualify for much less, or you have this student loan that's here, and because of this, you can't buy a property.
Right.
Figure out exactly what you can qualify for. And if there is anything bogging you down, you can handle that. You can take care of it. You can get it paid off. And maybe you realize you have 30 grand, but you can't invest in real estate until your student loans are paid off. And you just deploy that 30 grand into paying off existing debt or something.
Right.
Third thing would then be to go on the Realtor.com app and check out real estate. And just have fun with it. Go on Saturday, Sunday. Meet different real estate agents. If there's anyone that you think you can work well with, talk to them and see if they're able to help you.
Okay.
But in the process too, you're going to be able to see everything that's coming in the market. You'll be able to see firsthand everything that's going up, and that's going to be tremendous for you. And at the same time as you're doing that, read books, go on biggerpockets.com. Learn how to analyze real estate deals, and it's as simple as even going on YouTube. How to calculate cash flow rental property, like just easy stuff like that. I guarantee there are probably hundreds, if not thousands of videos telling you exactly what you need to do.
Right.
From there, this is at the point where you can feel comfortable knowing that you've talked to a lender, your credit's okay, working with a real estate agent, you've seen everything on the market, you know now what to look for, and you can begin actually making offers on properties, which is, again, that's a topic for another video.
Right.
But let's say we did that and we got an offer accepted. Do all of your inspections, as many inspections as you can.
So last quick little question.
Yeah.
So when I was kind of starting to look for my house, like I was wondering like, how does someone know if it's a good deal, right? And like the thing that kind of clicked in my brain was comps.
Yes.
So like talk about what that means, and then maybe some other tips you found that like are, you know, a good way of gauging if it's a good deal.
Yeah, so what I do is I see everything that comes on the market. So I know if something comes on a little low, I'm like, that property is worth way more. Or I just know it's going to sell multiple offers over asking. And you know that because you've seen everything else. And you use that home as a reference point from everything else you've seen.
Right.
You can't just go and see one home and be like, this is a good deal, I'm going to buy this one. You need to reference that against 50 or 100 other homes that are in that market. So you have something to compare it to.
Yeah.
Because you have no idea if you're spending 700 grand on a home, if that's a good deal, if across the street has a view and it's 720, or the home, you know, next door is like, you know, 690 and it's got a pool and it's more updated, and yours looks like shit and it's 700. So you need to see as many homes as possible. But now it does help to do comps, obviously, but the comps that I usually do are, I know them already because I've seen everything and stuff, so I don't need to do comps. For anyone else, I have many buyers that come to me and had maybe seen 15 homes, 10 homes. I've had even a few to see a few homes. They're like, this is the one I want. And it's less of a financial decision and more of an emotional decision where like, I love this house. I really don't care what it's worth. I just want that house.
Yeah.
But of course you have to figure out where to offer. So what we do is we go online and we see everything that's sold that's similar to that home.
In the area.
In the area, correct. And you weigh them against that home. And you think, this home is a better location, sold for X amount more. This home is worse location, but it's got the pool and the view and it's sold for this price. And you weigh out the pros and cons of each, and you're able to come up with a reasonable value of what you think that home is worth given its condition, location, and everything it has to offer. And based on that, you feel pretty safe knowing what you offer on that property.
And you guys heard it here on Kevin David YouTube. If you guys want to find more real estate, just amazing tips on how to get started for your first home, how to invest, right? Check out Graham Stephan on YouTube. Stephan is with a PH. Make sure you like, subscribe, all of that fun stuff. And if you guys want to bring Graham back on, we can do a much more detailed, advanced tutorial on real estate. If you guys want that, comment down below real estate, just the 2 words real estate, and we can bring Graham back on. So Graham, thank you so much for coming.
That was
and
fun.
We'll see you on the next one.
Just like a rock star.